Kyle Bailey Club, my man, my brother from another mother. KB, I'm sorry, something must have been happening in the cricket lines, but we got you.
No, I appreciate it, man. Phone lines have been the bane of my existence the last couple of weeks. I switched to Verizon. Apparently, it wasn't ringing, and we got AT&T issues at work. So, no, I apologize for my tardiness. Hope everybody down there is all right.
Everybody's good. I think the phone line gods are upset with, I think, every sports talk show these days. They got to be nice. Got to be nice. Let's speak of nice. I was saying before we got you on, is that the Alabama athletes have invaded the Queen City in Charlotte. Bryce Young been the number 1 pick for the Carolina Panthers. You just got Brandon Miller at the number 2 pick for the Hornets. You are pregame show for both of these organizations. But I was a little disappointed. I heard a bunch of boos. I thought this was the Jets drafting somebody, but it was the Hornets booing Brandon Miller. What's up with that, KB?
Well, look, I think there were. It was interesting. We did a poll at the station the other day of listeners, and about I think 7. That was an informal, unscientific poll. Don't get me wrong, but many respondents and about 75% of Hornets fans said they wanted to see them draft Scoot Henderson. And so I don't think it was. As a lot of listeners said after the fact too, it wasn't about Brandon Miller so much as it was they wanted Scoot Henderson. There were, however, a very vocal contingent of fans who were pro Brandon Miller. And I went into it. My first words last Monday on my show when I took the air and cracked the mic were, Scoot or Brandon, I'm at peace with whatever they do on Thursday because I think they're going to get a really good player. And, you can call that hedging or whatever, but, I had leaned Scoot for weeks at that point. But, I always really liked Brandon Miller's game. And I revisited a couple of games last weekend. And in particular, the game against your Gamecocks. After the incident, after all the headlines where he scored, I believe, 41 points. And I just walked away from it thinking that there's no way they're getting a bad player either way. And whoever this is, they still have to coach and develop them. So I was, not surprised by the time we got to last Thursday night. I was doing a live NBA draft show from the arena. And when they called Brandon's name, I wasn't surprised. But you're right. There were a lot of boos. The next day on my phone lines, though, there were a lot of people warming up to the idea of Brandon Miller.
Kyle Bailey is our guest here on the Miller's Edge. Kyle, I want to ask, how do you see Brandon Miller, now that you've gotten to go back and watch some more of his tape, how do you see him fitting in with the Charlotte Hornets, joining up with a guy like LaMelo Ball?
It's interesting. LaMelo was at Brandon Miller's workout with the Hornets. Well, he had a couple. He was the second workout. And players, of course, on the roster can't work out with these guys, but they can be in attendance. And the fact that LaMelo was there for his was at least interesting to some of our conversations. And so I think as time went on, I got to think, and I know other people did too, with his ability to shoot the basketball. He doesn't have elite handles, but for 6'9", he can certainly handle the basketball and can continue to improve. But the way he can shoot it and the way he can pass it, I think there are going to be times where he can play the 2 and play it effectively for this team. I think that he, just by being the shooter that he is, just added 2 assists per game to LaMelo Ball's stat line. Pretty much every single night. So the fit is interesting. He is, as you guys both know, like physically the prototypical NBA wing that every team is looking for. So, as far as the fit beside LaMelo, I think it's tremendous potentially, especially if Brandon's as advertised as a shooter. With LaMelo's ability to find guys for open looks, there could be a lot of beautiful offensive basketball ahead.
Kyle, Brandon got to have that phone call. I go back and I remember when I got drafted here, having, George Young, the general manager, call me, and Bill Parcells, albeit it was on a payphone. I had to go. but that was pretty special. Listen to that. And you can see just the look in Brandon's eyes, just, man, MJ, the greatest of all time, is calling me. That being said, how do you think they looked at this whole situation? Because we knew what went on in Alabama with the shooting and, Brandon was there on the scene and blah, 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 all the stuff that happened in Alabama. Do you think they kind of did their due diligence and, probably answer my own question, but with that situation, knowing that it could come up again down the road while he's in their organization, how do you think they handled all of that?
I wasn't involved in it, as you know, but as you also know, I have a pretty good idea of the depths to which professional sports teams can reach with their investigative processes and, the types of former law enforcement and others that they employ to do those things for them. So, I think every team that was I'd say the top 5 teams in the draft. I mean, of course, if you're drafting 6 through 10, you have no shot at Brandon Miller. But I'd say the top 5 teams in the draft, and anybody who even flirted with possibly trying to package something massive and trade up, all did their homework. You have to. You're investing significant capital. It's the number 2 pick in the NBA draft. Were this not the Victor Wembanyama draft, it'd be between Brandon and Scoot Henderson to be the number 1 overall pick, and we know the expectations that come with that. The number 2 pick, though, is not far off from the exact same expectations. So you better have done your homework with something as serious as this. Paul Biancardi of ESPN, he hosted that draft show with me last Thursday. Nobody's more connected to and plugged into the prep basketball scene, collegiate, McDonald's All-Americans, the recruiting trail, all that stuff. And he said Brandon should be the pick, for several weeks leading up. And he met with Nate Oates in France last year when Alabama was over there playing. And he's been adamant this whole time. There were 0 red flags about Brandon Miller in really any other area of his life. I had a guy that your audience probably knows down there, Aaron Suttles, on my show last week. And, it's great talking Alabama with Aaron, but he was the same way and said, look, he said it was the first time he'd spoken about it publicly and did so on my show. But everybody that he knew, from the coaches to the training staff to professors that had interacted with Brandon Miller, all had glowing things to say about him. So, I think that you can start to put together the pieces or put the puzzle together that this might have just been a young man who was involved in something extremely unfortunate, that had a very tragic ending, but that it doesn't define who he is as a person. And I think that's what the Hornets ultimately found out.
Absolutely. And I want to segue to football real quick. I know Bryce Young has been receiving rave reviews since he stepped foot in Charlotte. Now, what is it about him that has the Panthers coaches so excited right now?
Well, he's catching typos in the playbook a day into practice. The kid is, something else. I mean, mentally, he's unbelievable. I mean, that's a real story, by the way. Like they had something drawn up. I think it was the first or second day of practice. I think it was just a script of plays or something, and Bryce caught a mistake that either the head coach or the offensive coordinator had, made in that day's script or that set of plays, and so it had to be corrected. But that's the impression that I think he's made on a lot of people already here, is that he is laid back, he is charming, he does have that very all-American boy next door quality about him. But when he buckles his chin strap, he's all business, and he is very, very good at what he does. And while he hasn't proven anything at the NFL level, I think there's already a sense over there that he intends to prove that that's exactly what he's going to do. He's got a lot of people excited here. I've already said it on the air. I've got them going 9-8 and winning the division, in large part because this division stinks. Well, I think the division's terrible, Corey. I mean, it's not a very good division. And I think that they've got a very competitive roster around it. This is not too dissimilar to what Russell Wilson had in Seattle, and we just didn't know it when they dropped him into Seattle. Now, are they as good? No, I'm not nuts. Like, I'm not saying we got the Legion of Boom or anything. There are some real questions about cornerback depth. Do they need another edge rusher? They don't have a number 1 wide receiver right now, but they do have some talent. All I'm saying is this is not a very good division. You got Desmond Ridder starting in Atlanta. They got some talent, but we don't know if Desmond Ridder's any good. Derek Carr's in New Orleans now. We all respect Derek Carr, but his head coach is something like 17-38 all time. Dennis Allen is not a very good head coach. That roster's getting older. And Tampa's got Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask competing starting quarterback. They're looking to draft either Drake May or Caleb Williams next year. So now taking stock of all that and looking at the Panthers roster and dropping Bryce into it, do you think it's crazy they could go 9-8 and win this division? Because I don't.
Well, listen, now that you preached that sermon to me, I'm shouting amen. I didn't want to. There's something in the church where you said you got to say amen or ouch. I'm not saying ouch on this one. I'm saying amen because as you broke it down so eloquently with the division, no Tom Brady, no Drew Brees anymore. And, listen, it's up for grabs. And listen, who knows? I mean, with a good running game, an offensive line that got much better last year. Yeah, and some playmakers, this could go anywhere.
Well, right. I mean, the thing is, like you just said, they were a top 10 offensive line group last year. They bring everybody back, plus they add some strength in Chandler Zavala, who by the way, used to play shoulder to shoulder with Ike Ekwonu at NC State. Coaching staff here, James Campen loves him. Cade Mays is going into his second year out of Tennessee. He's apparently had a great offseason. They love what they see out of him. So at the very least, they feel like they've got quality depth now behind what was a top 10 offensive line last year. You signed Miles Sanders over from Philadelphia. Both Chuba Hubbard and Raheem Blackshear finished the season really strong in the backfield. So, yeah, they feel like they can run the ball and play defense this year. Zero Evero coming over from Denver running the defense. They believe that they can run the ball, play defense, and just let Bryce be a rookie. And they feel like they can compete for this division.
Well, KB, I think you're spot on, man. Again, sorry about the technical difficulties, but I'd love to have you on the Miller Boys, as you put it on your tweet, as a consistent guest, because, you know, we follow our Alabama boys. So appreciate your time, man, and I'm looking forward to getting back in it with you. I'll be down the SEC Media Days, and so I know hopefully I can be on the big show in the afternoon with the boys and have our normal fun and upset all those Clemson fans.
Oh, I look forward to seeing you, and you know you got a seat in my studio anytime you're in the city, buddy. We appreciate you, and Christian, it was good to talk to you.
Always, KB. Thanks for joining.
All right. Cal Bailey, afternoons on WFNZ 3 to 6. You can catch him, host of the Panthers and the Hornets pregame.